So welcome to our third podcast, and today we are meeting very interesting person. Meet Rahil Patel. He is the Chief Growth Officer at QNu Labs. Rahil, it's always so insightful talking to you. So I am really hoping for this one would be a real good one for our audience as well. So thank you once again coming here.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting.
Thanks, Rahil. So, for all of you, just a little introduction about Rahil. Rahil spearheads the growth strategy at QNu Labs, where he plays a very critical role in identifying and developing the innovative use cases for quantum cryptography. His leadership steers the company towards identifying new business prospects and building strategic partnerships that can speed up the adoption of the cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions. Rahil is a seasoned leader with 30 years of experience driving growth, partnerships, and market expansion across various technology sectors globally. At QNu Labs, Rahil plays a pivotal role in advancing the adoption of quantum-safe cybersecurity solutions, working closely with enterprises, government, and critical infrastructure providers to help them prepare for the quantum era. His expertise lies in connecting cutting-edge technology with business impact, ensuring organizations not only understand the urgency of quantum readiness, but also act on it with clarity and purpose. In this conversation, we'll talk about the future of quantum cybersecurity, the recent QNu's quantum safe network and the applications for defense, telecom, banking, public sector undertakings, and other critical sectors, and what it all means for India's digital sovereignty and global leadership. I am Sudiptaa Choudhury. I will be your host today. I am the CMO at QNu Labs. And with that, we are starting with our first question. Rahil, goes to you. What does a robust quantum communication transition roadmap look like from where you sit, and what are the stages an enterprise needs, and how far have Indian organizations come along those stages?
Yeah, thank you, Sudiptaa, again for having me. So, every so often we go through these changes in encryption algorithms, right? That because they provide the sort of the primary means for securing our digital data, right? The intent being that the privacy and confidentiality of this data has to be secured by these cryptographic processes. Essentially, has to outlive the usability value of the data being protected, right? So unlike your typical gadget life cycle releases, which are very frequent, iPhone just came out, right? Maybe once a year. Android phones comes out maybe once a quarter sometimes, right? But in encryption, you cannot have that sort of a frequency of change, right? Because the fundamental being that they protect the digital systems, and we have to ensure that the fundamental trust remains in that systems, right? So encryption or cryptography, typically, if you look at it, because it's entrenched into everything, and it typically goes through this transformation period. That period is typically very long, right? Decade or more, right? So we are at that juncture of this change from moving to this what we call as legacy or classical encryption methods to something that is better, right? And we call it quantum these days, and we'll go into that. And with that sort of context in the background, I would say that all organizations globally will have to prepare themselves for this coming change, right? And they'll have to approach this in a very methodical way so that they can avoid any disruptions for their stakeholders while ensuring that the trust and the credibility that they have earned over the years remains so, while ensuring that this robust transition occurs very efficiently, right? So how would an organization typically go about it? I would say it's a simple 4-step process, right? The first one being everybody in the organization has to be aware of what's coming, right? So basically understanding what's changing, what is the importance of it, and why they ought to take this up, right? The second step really is discovering and understanding how how the cryptography in their landscape actually works, right? So basically gathering knowledge of their own infrastructure, of where all their digital security assets lie, right? The third phase is really planning, right? You prioritize where you want to impact the change, right? And that impact of change would really depend on the risk criteria that the organization actually have discovered, right? Meaning that if there is a system or there's an application or there's data that is of high or critical risk, then maybe that gets addressed first, and then subsequently anything that comes of a lower risk value or a lower system value risk, then you probably take that as a second thing, and so on and so forth. And then the last one is obviously execution, right? Getting all these changes done by the teams, which may involve training the right resources, ensuring that there's effective project planning in place, there's testing of systems in place, so that there's minimal impact to the end users, right? And as far as Indian organizations are concerned, their readiness typically varies based on the industry they are in, and it really depends on how they consider their data to be critical, right? So, for example, defense would be at a very advanced stage, right? Followed by critical infrastructure, banking, telecom, healthcare, so on and so forth, right? So, I think everybody is sort of looking at this technology from how it impacts their business, and I think that's the right way to look at it.
Thank you so much, Rahil. I think that really clarifies that these are two takeaways for me. One is the based on the industries, the organizations can identify what is the risk level and what is the journey that they need to take. And the second thing, India has come really far away when it comes to setting up and putting themselves on the global quantum communication roadmap. And of course, there is a lot more to be done. So with that, I'm going to some other questions. As we see that the quantum roadmap, it's not just the center government's responsibility. We see the state government, we see the Karnataka has already mentioned that they are going to come up with the biggest ever quantum valley in India, and they are going to create with that $1 billion economies by 2035, giving the employment opportunity, ensuring the industry and the academia are coming together. There are a lot of new age research opportunities, and also the startup has to come, and a lot of granting, the funds, helping them to grow, helping them to innovate, fail fast. Those are the things that government is going, really making it very liberal and also a very cautious approach how we can really increase this economy to grow. So with that, what do you see? Because QNu Labs headquarters is in Bangalore. We have been there, and this is our 10th year that we have started. So how do you see that we as a company, because we are shaping the quantum technology roadmap, not just for India, but also for globally. So how are we going to define this for Karnataka as well? And what is that QNu Lab going to get benefit?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So under as you are aware, right, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, the National Quantum Mission was initiated, right, emphasizing the national significance of the quantum technology itself, right. So while the precise execution of his vision is of paramount importance, I think India has the potential to make significant advancements in this field, right. It is great to see that Karnataka and other states have realized the importance of building these ecosystems, right, to take this charter forward, right. So as you rightly mentioned, right, QNu celebrated its 10th birthday, so to speak, right. So we can certainly help with this state or national initiatives, as we have been at it for almost 10 years now, and we thus understand the intricacies of what ought to be done, where the gaps are, how we can bring about impactful change for better potential outcome, right? And not just for Karnataka, but country as a whole, and probably globally as well, right? So I feel that whenever there's an initiative that builds holistic ecosystem, right, it fosters collaboration, and it accelerates innovation, right? So I believe that QNu can really help fast track these goals of the state, and the result of that would be creating many more QNUs in the state, right? So it's not just about us. I think it's about creating a very deep and very wide ecosystem of various aspects of quantum, and I think it's very good to see that the state is actually looking at it as a first step towards creating a $20 billion economy by 2035. In this space, I think it's commendable, and if all things are done right, I think it will hold a significant value not only to the state but actually to the country.
Correct. And I was recently, there was a conference where, the Karnataka was talking that in many sense, Karnataka is number one when it comes to one of the contributing states amongst, India's all the states. And whether it is the next Silicon Valley after US, it's Karnataka. It is giving the second ever contributing the highest GDP growth.
Yes.
Across India's other states. So I think the first in Maharashtra, and then the second one is Karnataka, and definitely not just Karnataka. I also see that Amravati, they have also declared that one, and we were there. We did participate in the task force. We were also part of the panel. So I seeing Karnataka and Hyderabad, Amravati, there are going to be many more states who are going to revolutionize this industry, and this is definitely going to strengthen India's overall understanding and creating a lot of innovations and bringing all these IITs, IIMs, which is already has been created by NQM. But then this is definitely going to move this. The momentum is going to be tremendous in the coming years. So I definitely agree what you said.
Yeah, we can build the momentum up. Absolutely.
Exactly. So with that, Rahil, my next question is, HDFC recently talked about their funding, and we just closed our the funding from the Series A, right? And it's such a fortunate and also a very glorious moment, and it definitely gives a very positive message going back to the all those deep tech startups. Dare to think, dare to disrupt, dare to innovate. So with that strengthening moment of partnership between QNu and the HDFC, what is your take? How do you see this from the QNu as an organization, and what do you see the message that goes back to the ecosystem where we see the different types of startups are coming?
Yeah. I think we have to look at it from a perspective of digital sovereignty, right? Given the evolving geopolitical environment, I had actually written a blog a little while back on the importance of digital sovereignty recently, and how each country needs to think about it seriously, right? So I think India, as you know, has been a sort of a global leader in digital banking services, right? In payment systems and all, right? So I think India has done so much innovation that in this arena, such that we are actually exporting this technology, right? You may have heard that UPI is being taken to Middle East, UPI has been taken to Singapore, and so on and so forth, right? So our approach has always been that if we are able to innovate for the greater public good, we as a country are willing to share it with others, right? And HDFC being the largest financial institution in India, right, private financial bank, right, has always stayed ahead in taking up technology that retain their trust of retaining the trust of their customers into the HDFC ecosystem, right? So I think from that perspective, when you look at it, I think it is very humbling and very gratifying to see that such an institution of a global repute believed in what QNu is doing and decided to be part of that journey in making Indian financial systems more ready and apt for the quantum era, right? So when a leader like HDFC embraces quantum, right, it validates the importance of this technology, and more importantly, I think it breaks the barrier and fades away all the doubts of others that are sitting on the sidelines, right? So I think that helps accelerate the adoption of this critical technology into a very important factor that runs our not global, but actually local as well as global digital systems, right? And payment being a very international as well as locally important facet of everyday citizen. I think this phenomenal that a bank like HDFC believes in it, and they don't believe it very easily, right? We have been engaged with them for a long time. They did all the vetting, and then finally they were so amazed at QNu that they thought that not only would they partner with us to adopt the technology, but they felt that they have to invest in us. And I think that is the best validation a company like us can get when a potential customer becomes a partner and investment partner in our growth journey. So I think I'm very excited about this partnership, and I see that it will actually help shape the banking industry for India.
Yes, and if you see the kind of different regulation that is going on typically in the BFSI, and BFSI has been a pioneer after defense. If we see, they are the most vocal and most hungry and adopting, moving all the standards that we can really think of the other sectors or the other industries, putting them behind. So with that, my next question is that recently that we see India's recent white paper transitioning to cyber readiness, right? Quantum cyber readiness, and we see that government is asking for private industries to come forward, coming together, create a consortium where they can co-create the standards, identifying the right norms, look into the different specific use cases industry by industry, and then coming up with the guidelines how to set it up. And of course there is also a timeline that has been given that these are the things you should be doing. So this is a lot more clarity that we see in the last few years of the quantum cyber readiness. With that, what do you really believe that what more government can do, and how soon we can really go ahead, because the Q day, as per the right prediction, this year is the Q implementation, means quantum implementation, quantum communication technology as an implementation. And this is also the era when the quantum computer has already arrived in the various parts of the globe, right? And they have started breaking all those protocols that we see, the ECC, RSA, and then there are a few others as well, right? So how do you really see that, given this clarity coming from the government and they are welcoming the private to come and showcase this particular innovation, what it really means and how soon it will take us to complete this?
Yeah, I think, at least in my opinion, this government itself is a startup, right? They are so aggressive in terms of making all the government regulations updated. If they don't have the expertise, they would actually bring it from the industry. So in all those aspects, I think they're doing very well, right? So just like the more participation that gets into such things, right, the better it becomes, right? So take an example of MIT, DST, DSCI, NASSCOM, and all other government bodies have realized that quantum is a great risk and a great opportunity, right? But in order for the country to succeed, it does require a robust and a well-coordinated strategy, so to speak, right? And I believe the importance of this is getting more and more prominence, right? Which is a very good thing, right? The regulations and formalization of guidelines is something of an area where I think there's still work to be done, right? But and why it is important, I think because it will have a lasting benefit to the country, right, as a whole, right? So while I think that is an area where we can potentially accelerate, the great thing about all of this is that fortunately we have a very tech-savvy minister heading the IT ministry of the country, right? So that really helps focus the efforts, and I'm very hopeful that it will yield the results that is beneficial to all the citizens of this country, and invariantly accelerate what we all want, right? If there's a better technology, if there's a better system already available within the country, then why not have it used everywhere, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? It's something that we're not importing. It's something that's already readily available within the country. So why not go ahead and adopt it? So I think the regulations and compliances and guidelines are something that needs to be coordinated well, and a strategic approach to how the nation can take it forward is something that I think can be done a little bit better. But I'm very hopeful that this will get done no matter what.
Right. And I totally believe that the self-reliance, because given the geopolitical, situation again, we are being pressurized, but we know that how to focus on ourselves first, rather than following the West or any other the countries currently. So with that, I really believe that while this is the right step, we are all moving forward and we are in alignment with each other, which is very important. That is where the momentum will come. How do you really measure the success of a quantum readiness? What are the KPIs as a leader that you really measure, or you want to put it across the the board when we are having those boardroom discussions?
Yeah, so over the past few years, if you look at cybersecurity, right, it has indeed become a board level discussion, and rightfully so, right? So just look at like the current event that happened, right, with UK and the European airports getting affected as a result of a cyber attack, right? Now think about it. The implications are so far-fetched, right? Not only airlines, but airports, transit, cargo. I mean, imagine right, travel. I mean, imagine the devastation that it brings upon all the stakeholders, right? So I believe quantum readiness is now also sort of becoming a board level agenda, as the ultimate responsibility of maintaining organizations' reputation and trust of their customers is with the leadership of that organization, right? So I believe that the measurement of success, in my opinion, is very easy, right? Are the risks identified? If so, what is the remediation that you are putting together? What is the strategy behind it? Who will execute it, and who will lead the change, right? Because in certain organizations, you may have CISO playing that role. In other organizations, CTO may be playing that role. But ultimately, putting somebody in charge, right, and getting him the attention at the board level, I think that drives the necessary change, right? And I think KPIs are no different than what you would do with any other technology implementation, right? So I think this is relatively an easier thing to do if the attention and intent is actually driven by the board. And I think we have seen that in some of our customers where when the board steps in, I think everybody falls in place, and then things get moving, right? So I think that is the right approach.
I totally agree, because it's a more of a top-down approach, because they have better clarity to provide the right norms, provide the right guidelines, and also train and equip other the leaders under them, so that they know what is the exact clarity on the roadmap and what are their roles and responsibilities are. So well said, Rahil. With that, I will have two rapid questions for you. The first one is, you as a leader, what really makes you excited or motivated to keep working, keep coming to office when it comes to the quantum cybersecurity?
Okay. So our understanding, our current understanding of quantum technology remains very nascent, right? We have barely scratched the surface, right? However, I'm confident that as advancements continue, right, it will fundamentally transform our knowledge and perspectives that we carry in this field, right? So I think that is what brings me to the office every day, right? Because the possibilities are thus limitless, and that is what excites me the most, right? Because this is a fundamental change in our understanding. We had understandings of physics thus far, and now we are completely challenging the status quo, right? So I think that is very, very, very interesting and very, very exciting for me to wake up every day and come to work for it, right? But inversely, if you ask me what keeps me up at night, right, is something of a nature that, despite having solutions, our past experiences may slow us to adopt them, right? So, for example, if let's say a major digital privacy crisis were to occur, we might realize too late that quantum technology could have saved us only if we had acted sooner, right? So I think this is a sort of a paradox, right? On one hand, you already have a technology. On the other hand, people are adopting it slow because of various reasons, right? I'm not going to say whether it's just the regulation, whether it's just the compliance, whether it's just the intent, whether it's just the focus. But I think all things put together, I think the example that I gave, right, with the airports and all, I think it's sort of like a wake-up call, right? And you see these incidents occurring more frequently than ever. at the same time, people are spending so much on cybersecurity. So then something ought to change, right? So I really believe that if people really wanted to change the status quo, they have to think differently. They have to adopt and sort of go about and test new technologies, right? And be the sort of the torch bearers, right, in their industry, and say, hey, there is real benefit to this technology. Let us all accept this and move forward, right? So I think that's what keeps me coming back to work.
Sure. So, Rahil, the another one is that if we see us next 5 years, or let's say 3 to 5 years kind of a window, where you really see that QNu Labs will be, right? And what kind of standard that we have set up for India and also for global?
Yeah, so I think all cryptographic processes, right, doesn't matter which application, network, cloud infrastructure, will have to have transitioned to quantum safe standards in 3 to 5 years, right? Doesn't matter if it's India or globally, right? But I think what India may potentially become is sort of like a leader setting the benchmark, just as we have done with digital payment systems, right? I think we can do the same thing here with quantum safety, right? And I think QNu's role, if you think about it in this whole thing, is to help accelerate this transition, right? Because we are a very customer focused innovation company, right? So I'm sure that we'll continue to do what is necessary to maintain the long-term privacy and sanctity of data privacy as it may come for nation, for organizations, for individuals, whatever that case may be. And I think that will continue to remain valid for the next 3 to 5 years, right? Or even beyond, right? So I think QNu's role in this whole thing would be how can we make the technology more palatable? How can we make it more easy to adopt? How can we make people understand the importance of it? I think that all will continue to play a pivotal role, and we have, as you see, like 10 years we've been continuously innovating. So we'll continue to do that, and I think we'll take the message out to various industries that are still sleeping, so to speak, right? And they will wake up as soon as they start seeing the percolation of this with their peers, with adjacent industries, and I think then they will realize that, hey, this is something that they could have done, or maybe something like a cyber attack that occurred on the airport will trigger somebody to think differently, and maybe they will act upon it more robustly than we all think, right? So I think that is what I foresee in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, one thing I definitely see, because if you see, each and every industry is affected by cyber attack. It's not just the BFSI, telco, or like as you rightly said, the defense, but as you rightly mentioned, the travel, I say e-commerce, retail. Every now and then, Amazon's data has been exposed. There has been many other retail players, Marks and Spencer. I heard there was the Louis Vuitton. There are many who are getting, and until it affects you, you don't really wake up. So that is the kind of mindset, everyone, whether it's India, whether it is global, any other country, everybody has that mindset. I really hope that would change in this next 3 to 5 years, because then they will see the more severity and of course the consequences of the data getting breached, and of course those huge fee, the goodwill, the reputation of the company, everything getting lost in a fraction of second. So with that, Rahil, I just would like to understand that if you can give us some of these use cases, right? I know that QNu have a focus on those industries who are typically looking at quantum to be implemented right now, and we are working with the government in shaping up those laws and shaping up those implementation paths. But if we also have a generic message that goes to all the industries, some of these use cases that help them think forward, right? Because at the end of the day, our podcast always helps to educate and also tell them that what is next that you should be doing. So with that piece of the advice or some kind of the critical information that we would like to share with our audience, if you can do that.
Yeah, sure. So I always say that if there's a better lock for your office, if there's a better lock for your home, would you not go ahead and use that lock, right? Would you not go ahead and do it, right? People change their phones maybe 6 to 12 months, right? But how often do they change their locks, right? So that is point number one. Point number two is, at any given point in time, if I were to ask anybody, right, where are the keys of your locker? Where are the keys of your office? Where are the keys of your drawer where you put all your variables? Everybody would have that answer. But when you take that to organizations, it becomes very complex, right? If I were to ask a very large organization or mid-sized organization how many keys they use, where those cryptographic keys are, what is the impact, when was the last change, and what are the locks that they use, which are nothing but algorithms, right? It is typically, I've seen that, in a room full of 20 people, they look at each other, right, expecting an answer from somebody else, right? So fundamentally, what I'm trying to tell is whether people start the quantum journey or not, I think it is important for them to really understand where they are. Because as I said, right, in the initial part of our conversation, that encryption really changes maybe a decade or so, right? So people forget, right? People may have moved on when somebody else has implemented, and now they are at a different organization. So it is at least a very important aspect for the people that are custodians of either their customers' data or any private or confidential data that they deem will have an adversarial effect on their own organization. They ought to know where these things are. And I think once they have this, they'll very quickly realize that they have to change, and I think will help them very, very, very aptly to change and make them secure, right? So I think this is the journey, and I think everybody has to take it. It's inevitable, whether people believe it or not. I think quantum adoption of quantum is not a question of if. I think it's a question of when, and I think it's completely under the control of the states, the country, the organization, and the individual. Imagine if customers start asking, what is the protection of my healthcare data? I think organizations that are handling healthcare data will have to inevitably respond to it, right? So I think it is everybody's responsibility to go and ask, what are you doing to protect my data? And if everybody starts asking that question to the government, to the organization, to banks, and to insurance, and to healthcare, I think the change will occur very, 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 very quickly.
And no, I think I cannot agree more than what you said. So thank you so much, Rahil. It's a pleasure once again, and very insightful for all our audience, to take that, the key messages, and please reflect on this. And we will get back to you with another set of podcasts, and we will be having, starting with our industry podcast soon. So please stay tuned. And as we always do, that QNu being always being the front runner, and we are always shaping the everything that we can think in the quantum communication landscape, and always disrupting with our hybrid quantum secure solution, which is end-to-end, which is indigenous, which is commercialized, which has been certified not just by Indian government but also global standards. So we really believe that we are doing the right thing at the right time. 10 years ago, this thinking or this mindset was not there, and today we see many of us are standing along, with us, and of course government has been so very supportive. So we really believe that we will continue to work on our framework, and you, as Rahil mentioned, that we have a very deep framework, that's a 7-stage framework for crypto agility, and which of course starts with the realization and understanding the discovery part of it. Then you define those stages, then you deploy, you of course do a pilot, and then you deploy, then you monitor, and then you finally integrate, and then you try to scale up from where you have started, right? And that really makes you crypto resilient based on the new technologies or the new infrastructure or the new security layer that you apply. So the choices that we make today, that will always determine whether our digital world remains secure or not for tomorrow. From having our headquarters in India's first quantum city with global presence in US, Australia, Middle East, we have a deep presence, and also in Far East and few other countries, we are truly global. QNu Labs is clearly shaping the narrative for a secure, quantum-ready nation and for the world. For our viewers, if there is one takeaway from today's episode, it's this. The future of cybersecurity is not just about stronger firewalls or protecting the ransomware or being reactive to a ransomware attack or taking the smarter AI, but it is about focusing on the trust because that is non-negotiable. And we are the architect of shaping up and building the trust using quantum physics, advanced mathematics, computer science, electronics, and so many other things. So QNu Labs is so proud that we are leading that change. Thank you once again for tuning in to this episode of QNu Labs podcast. Stay with us as we continue to bring you conversation with other pioneers and other leaders in this industries in quantum space. Until next time, this is Sudiptaa Choudhury signing off. Thank you so much, Rahil, once again. It's a real pleasure having you. And we'll come back shortly with our industry podcast where we would like to host you once again.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you.